At Starbound, we tell stories the human way, not with artificial voices or AI garbage. What's HFY without humanity? Subscribe to keep it that way. I'm Daniel Pierce, and I'm going to be your narrator. Now, let's begin. The gravest mistake an alien empire can make isn't invading Earth, but running a meticulous galaxy-wide study to find its 3 most dangerously adaptable citizens and then putting them all in the same room. The first thing Milo decided about alien abduction was that the floors were unreasonably cold, a deep energy-sucking cold that went right through his thin sleep shorts and settled in his bones. He groaned a sound that was half rust, half complaint, and pushed himself up on one elbow. The world swam into focus, a vast gray room made of seamless metal. The air carried the sharp scent of superheated ceramic and burnt sugar. A few feet away, a woman was already on her feet, coiled and ready. She had the compact, powerful build of a fighter, her dark hair pulled back in a messy knot. Her eyes, sharp and assessing, were darting around the enclosure, cataloging every shadow, every seam. She moved with a liquid grace that told Milo she knew exactly how to handle herself in a tight spot. The third member of their impromptu party was a lanky guy with sun-bleached hair who was currently prodding a glowing line on the floor with his bare foot. He wore a grin that was entirely inappropriate for the circumstances. "Whoa," he said, his voice echoing in a sterile space. "This is way better than the ayahuasca retreat in Peru." The woman shot him a look that could have curdled milk. "Stay sharp," she commanded, her voice low and steady, "and stop touching things." "Yeah, just getting a feel of the place," the guy said, bouncing on the balls of his feet. "Gotta know your environment, right? I'm Cody, by the way." The woman didn't return the pleasantries. "Tegan." Milo finally pushed himself to a sitting position, his joints cracking in protest. "Milo," he grunted, rubbing the back of his neck. "And for the record, my garage floor is warmer than this, and it's covered in 30 years of motor oil." He looked from Tegan's tense posture to Cody's unnerving enthusiasm. One was a loaded gun, the other was a firecracker with a lit fuse. Milo himself was just a mechanic from Detroit. This was already shaping up to be a very long day. Before any more introductions could be made, the wall in front of them wavered, the flat gray metal dissolving into a haze of static. A figure materialized, 12 feet tall and built like a stack of granite blocks. It had 4 muscular arms, a face like a lizard's nightmare, and was draped in armor that looked ceremonial, but its heavy plating and overlapping segments were brutally functional. "Greetings, Terran specimens," the hologram boomed, its voice a synthesized avalanche of bass. "I am Warlord Crayon of the Skartari." Cody whistled. "Holograms, nice. That's some high-end production value." Tegan ignored him, her gaze locked on the warlord. "Why are you here?" Crayon's lipless mouth pulled into a tight, humorless line. "An excellent question. One, my so-called peers in the predatory coalition are too complacent to even ask." His voice was not condescending, it was laced with a fanatic's frustration. "For centuries, the Xenobiology Corps warnings have gathered dust. Reports labeling your world a Tier 1 existential hazard. They documented your viral adaptability, your unnatural pack cohesion. They instituted Quarantine Mandate 934, and then nothing." He gestured with 2 arms in a sweep of disgust. "The coalition grew fat and lazy. The quarantine became a joke. The dire reports academic hysteria. They call me a fool for honoring the old ways, for believing the warnings. They say humanity is nothing. But you," Crayon raised his arms with frantic reverence, "you will show us better.
For millennia, we have feared our own predators, but I have always known we fear the wrong thing.
Karen gestured at the trio of confused citizens.
We were meant to fear you, the ones who live on Earth.
His holographic eyes burned with a zealot's fire.
I am tired of being mocked, so I have designed this demonstration. Our abduction scanners identified your primary societal functions. A laborer skilled in mechanics.
He nodded at Milo.
An enforcer, a practitioner of close-quarters violence.
He acknowledged Tegan.
And a recreational specialist, displaying peak agility and spatial awareness.
He finished, glancing at Cody.
I have brought your best, your prime, and I will broadcast your trial to the entire willfully blind coalition. Today, I will force them to watch as I throw the might of the galaxy against you.
He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial growl.
And when my champions fail to break you when you adapt, when you turn my ship into your weapon, then they will finally know the terror they have so arrogantly ignored. Your survival is my vindication.
Milo thought this religious freak talked too much. The hologram crackled and vanished. For a moment, no one spoke, the warlord's words echoing in sudden quiet. Cody broke it, his surfer bro demeanor completely gone, replaced by a sharp focus. Okay, his goal isn't to kill us. He's using us to prove a point. He wants us to win so he can worship us or something? He wants us to put up a good fight, Tegan corrected, her expression grim. He doesn't care if we die doing it. We're just ammunition in his political argument. Milo grunted. Great. So we're a science fair project for a psycho. He was already on his knees, running a calloused thumb along the seam where the floor met the wall. Still, he's got a good point about the shoddy construction. A faint vibration hummed under his fingertips, a low rhythmic thrum of power. Before he could investigate further, the far wall of the cell dissolved into a curtain of rippling light, revealing a short graded ramp that ascended into a maelstrom of sound and light. The scent of hot sand and something musky, like a wet dog the size of a minivan, washed over them. The roar of a crowd, deep and guttural, echoed from beyond. Tegan cracked her knuckles. Showtime.
And we are live from the Warlord Crayon's personal flagship, the Gauntlet, for what promises to be a controversial broadcast.
Gidja chirped, his gelatinous body quivering.
Welcome, viewers across the coalition, to what Crayon is calling a validation trial.
Beside him, Merc sloshed placidly in his commentator's chair, a single weary eye stalk fixed on the main monitor.
A validation trial, Gidja. That's a new one. Most sane individuals would call it poking a rock spider with a stick to see if it's venomous. The answer is always yes. Oh, come now, Merc. Crane is challenging the complacent view that the Earth quarantine is unnecessary.
Gidja bubbled.
He seeks to prove the ancient Xenobiology Corps reports were correct all along.
On the screen, the three humans ascended the ramp and stepped out into a vast, sand-filled arena.
Our technicians confirm the Warlord's claim,
Gidja announced.
The specimens were selected for peak physical and mental attributes based on their societal roles. A bold choice to demonstrate a threat.
Merc's eye stalk twitched.
It's the only logical choice, Gidja, if one actually believes the threat is real. Unlike it would seem, the rest of the Coalition leadership, who are reportedly already placing bets on how quickly the humans will be reduced to a protein stain.
A massive iron gate began to rise at the far end of the arena.
And here we go. Let's see what Predator Crayon has chosen for his opening argument,
Gidja exclaimed. The gate slammed into its zenith, and a creature that looked like a cross between a rhinoceros and a nightmare boulder lumbered out. It stood 10 feet tall at the shoulder, its hide a thick, craggy plate of dark gray ossified hide. Two massive tusks, curved like scythes, jutted from its lower jaw. It let out a bellow that vibrated the broadcast equipment.
"It's a Groan!"
Gidja shrieked.
"A bull Groan from the dust plains of Cinder 4. A classic predator, all muscle, all rage. A fine test for the Terran's supposed ingenuity."
Merc leaned his single eye stalk closer to the screen.
"The reports on humanity always emphasize their unusual pack dynamics. Let's see if there's any truth to it."
He watched as 3 small figures spread out, their postures changing.
Or perhaps the coalition leaders will win their bets. That's also a possibility.
In the arena, the Grom fixed its beady red eyes on the closest, most animated target. It was Cody, who was waving his arms.
"Hey, ugly!"
Cody yelled, hopping from foot to foot.
"Your mom was a mud skipper and your dad smelled of piss. Come on, let's dance."
The Grorn lowered its head and charged. Gidja was beside himself.
"Incredible! He's drawing the beast aggression, a classic distraction maneuver."
Merc watched, unblinking.
"It's a very loud, very fragile distraction."
The ground shook with each of the Grorn's thunderous steps. Sand sprayed in plumes behind its massive feet. It was a freight train of muscle and fury, and it was aimed directly at Cody.
"Cody, move!"
Tegan yelled, her voice a whip crack in the roaring chaos.
"I got this."
Cody shouted back, a delirious grin plastered on his face. He waited until the last possible second, until he could smell the creature's foul, hot breath. Then, with a gymnast's grace, he planted his hands and flipped sideways, the tip of one of the Groan's tusks grazing his shirt. The beast thundered past, unable to stop its momentum, and plowed into the far wall with a deafening crash. The Grorn shook its massive head, enraged, and spun around. This time, it ignored Cody and fixed its gaze on Tegan. She stood her ground, feet planted, her body a steady and controlled tension. She was drawing its attention, giving the others a window.
"Milo, anything?"
She barked, not taking her eyes off the beast.
"Working on it."
Milo was scanning the arena walls, ignoring the monster. He spotted it, a maintenance access panel. He sprinted towards it.
"Cody, keep it busy. Don't let yourself get cornered."
Tegan ordered.
"You got it, boss."
Cody yelled, scrambling up a pile of rocks. Milo reached the panel and wrenched at the handle, bolted from the inside. Oh, of course, he swore. He slammed his fist against it, and a piece of loose, decorative rock plating clattered to the sand. An idea sparked. He grabbed a jagged piece of metal debris from the floor to use as a makeshift pry bar. He jammed it into the seam of the panel.
"Tegan, a little help."
He grunted, straining against the bar. Tegan feinted a charge at the Grorn, drawing a furious swipe, then sprinted to Milo's side.
"What do you need?"
"Leverage," Milo gasped.
"Help me with this bar."
Together, they threw their weight onto the metal bar. There was a groan of stressed metal, then a loud crack as one of the internal bolt housings fractured. The Grorn, hearing the noise, turned its massive head, its tiny red eyes zeroing in on them.
"I know you don't."
Cody shouted, leaping from his perch and landing on the Groan's broad back. The beast bucked and spun wildly, giving them the crucial seconds they needed. Together, they wrenched the bar again. Crack, crack! The remaining bolts sheared. The heavy gate sagged in its frame.
"Ah, it's loose!"
Milo yelled as Cody was finally thrown clear, landing hard in the sand. The Grorn, its patience gone, charged directly at the now helpless Cody.
"The trench!"
Milo yelled, pointing at the shallow service conduit the grate had covered.
"We can't lift it, but we can topple it."
Tegan understood. She jammed her fingers under the loose edge of the grate, her muscles screaming in protest. It was extremely heavy, hundreds of pounds of solid steel. She couldn't lift it, but she could move it. She got her shoulder under the corner she had pried up.
Cody, draw it in! Veer left!
She roared. Cody, recovering in an instant, scrambled to his feet and sprinted, not away, but directly into the path of the charge, then cut sharply left. The beast, locked on its target, followed blindly.
Now!
Tegan bellowed. As Cody dove past, she put every ounce of her strength and fury, not into lifting, but into a massive, desperate shove. It was a powerlifter's leg drive, a fighter's explosive force, all focused on one pivot point. The grate didn't fly, it toppled. With a deafening clang, it fell forward, its far edge crashing into the sand. Its near edge landing perfectly across the shallow trench, creating a brutal, angled ramp. The Grorn, its simple brain, unable to process the sudden change in terrain, slammed its front leg into the angled steel. The angled steel caught its front leg, shattering the bone on impact. Its immense momentum carried it up the short ramp, sending it airborne for a terrifying, heart-stopping second before it crashed down on its side, a toppled mountain of ossified hide and rage. Before the creature could even try to rise, Tegan was on it. She used its flailing leg as a springboard to launch herself onto its thrashing head. She brought her clasped fist down like a piston, a human hammer, seeking the one soft spot she'd gambled on finding. The blow landed just behind the armored cranium with a sound like a melon full of wet gravel splitting open. The Grorn shuddered, a final, convulsive tremor running through its body, and then it was still. The arena fell silent, save for the sound of Tegan's ragged breathing. Cody slowly picked himself up from the sand.
Okay, that was teamwork.
Milo stared at the dead behemoth, then at the steel ramp they'd created.
Yeah,
He said, a slow grin spreading across his face.
leverage is a beautiful thing.
The adrenaline fled, leaving an anchor of weariness in Milo's bones. He sagged against the wall of a new holding cell, his legs trembling with the memory of the Grorn's charge. Across the cell, Tegan's hands shook until she clenched them into white-knuckled fists. She took a deep, shuddering breath, then another. The tremor subsided. She began to stretch, methodically working the soreness from her muscles. To her, the fight was just a data point. Her body was a weapon, and a weapon required maintenance. Milo watched her, then pushed himself off the wall. He knelt and began examining a seam in a floor panel, not just tracing it, but pressing on it, testing its give, mapping the ship's construction one shoddy weld at a time. Cody looked from Tegan's focused stretching to Milo's obsessive tinkering. He was part of this now, a working part. He started doing light agility drills, his movements quick and silent, keeping his body limber, ready for whatever came next. On the broadcast, Merc's single eye stalk was wide with something that looked suspiciously like admiration.
Merc, I don't understand.
Gidja stammered.
They dismantled it with a piece of scrap metal and teamwork.
They did.
Merc said, his voice a low thrum of dawning unease. He was watching the three humans in their cell.
And look at them now, Gidja.
The camera zoomed in.
They show no signs of entering the post-exertion torpor state,
Merc observed.
They've moved directly into a post-mission debrief, analyzing, recalibrating, preparing. For them, the hunt never ends.
His voice dropped.
The coalition leaders have stopped betting, Gidja. They are simply watching.
Aboard the command bridge of the Gauntlet, Warlord Cryon watched the humans with a grim satisfaction. His private comm was flooded with messages from his peers. The mockery had stopped. Now, there was only a tense, confused silence.
They learn.
He murmured to himself. A technician approached, careful to stay out of arm's reach.
Warlord, the Scar Matriarch sends a query. She asks if this demonstration is truly necessary.
Tell the matriarch to keep watching.
Krian sneered.
The lesson is just beginning. Prepare the labyrinth of blades. Let's see how their pack synergy holds up against true hunters and automated defenses.
His lipless mouth twisted into a savage grin.
It is time to show the Coalition what human ingenuity looks like under pressure.
The floor beneath them fell away. They landed on a hard, grated floor in a corridor illuminated by thin strips of red light. Walls shifted, creating a constantly reconfiguring puzzle box. From deep within, a high-pitched chittering echoed. Scar, Milo breathed. Fast. Pack hunters. Good, Tegan said. I hate fighting things that just stand there. A plasma turret descended from the ceiling, its glowing blue eyes swiveling to scan the corridor. It locked onto them.
Get down!
Milo yelled. Plasma bolts sizzled past.
Cody, draw its fire!
Tegan commanded.
On it!
Cody yelled, sprinting down the corridor, a manic blur of motion. The turret's relentless fire bought Milo the time he needed. He scrambled to the wall beneath it and ripped open the access panel. Inside, a chaotic jumble of wires fed a central hub. The turret's main power line was thick and humming with lethal energy. He wasn't stupid enough to touch it with bare hands. The charge would kill him instantly. He looked inside the panel. A maintenance technician had left a heavy-duty wrench clipped to the door. Its handle was thick, insulated rubber. Perfect. He snapped the wrench in half against the edge of the panel opening and used the rubber-coated handle to grip the live cable. With a grunt, he yanked it free. Then, using the insulated handle to protect himself, he jammed the cable's exposed contacts into the port for a heavy blast door at the end of the hall. The air crackled, sharp with the scent of flash-forged metal. The turret died. The blast door hummed with rerouted power. Before closing up, he noticed the turret's self-contained power cell, a dense, humming cube. He popped it free and shoved it into his waistband. Next to it was a small, hardened ceramic card marked with a symbol of a key within a cog. A master maintenance interface. He pocketed that too. While Milo committed electrical blasphemy, Tegan and Cody ran their own deadly ballet. The shifting walls had separated the two Scar hunters. Tegan dispatched one, her movements brutally economical, exploiting the backward-canted joint in its leg to cripple and finish it. She found Cody playing a lethal game of hide-and-seek with the final Scar.
Milo, status!
Tegan called.
Turret's offline, but I made a new friend.
Milo shouted back.
Get into the main corridor with the big blast door.
Tegan relayed the instruction. Cody grinned and popped out in front of the Scar.
Tag, you're it!
He sprinted, the alien hot on his heels. He was heading for a series of low-hanging pipes that crossed the corridor.
Get ready!
Milo yelled.
Dive!
Tegan screamed. Cody launched himself into a low slide, passing clean under the pipes. The Scar, not wanting to lose momentum or crawl, made a predator's calculation. It leaped, aiming to clear the pipes and land on Cody on the other side. It was a fatal mistake. As the creature passed under the deactivated turret, Milo slammed the wires together. The blast door at the end of the hall discharged a massive, concentrated wave of plasma. The beam hit the Scar mid-leap. For a fraction of a second, the creature was silhouetted in brilliant, terrible light. Then it simply ceased to exist. Vaporized. The corridor was quiet again. The only sound, a low hiss from the overloaded blast door. Cody let out a low whistle.
Okay, that was an upgrade.
Milo patted the heavy power cell in his waistband.
They're leaving spare parts all over the place,
he said.
It'd be rude not to use them.
On the broadcast, Gidja was screaming.
They turned the door into a death ray! Is that even possible?
Merc was quiet, his form trembling.
Gidja,
he said, his voice low and strained.
They are harvesting. They came in with nothing. They are leaving with components, with weapons. The xenobiology reports called them persistent hunters, and we thought it meant they could run for a long time. We were fools.
His voice dropped to a horrified whisper.
We revere our apex predators, but we never considered what happens when you find something that doesn't just kill predators, but butchers them for parts. Something that hunts the hunters themselves. For millennia, we have feared our own predators until today. Until we saw what lives on Earth.
The flood of incoming messages to Crane's private comm was no longer silent. It was a torrent of panicked queries. The Scar Matriarch's message flashed on screen. No longer a polite question.
You have made your point, Crane. This spectacle is over. Kill them! Kill the broadcast now!
Humiliation and triumph warred in Crane's gut. They feared. Finally, they feared. He had proven his point, but now he had to contain the proof.
The trials are over,
He bellowed.
but the lesson is not. Now, the Terrans face a true warrior. They will face my champion. Release Udomax!
In the final holding cell, Milo held out a jury-rigged EMP he had made from the turret's power cell. Aim for the shiny bits, he said. Tegan stretched, her eyes watching a replay of Skitarii combat. He'll be proud, overconfident. We use that. Milo, spot weaknesses. Cody, you're the distraction. Don't let him plant his feet. The door hissed open. All right, team, Cody said, tucking the EMP into his shorts. Let's go win the Super Bowl. They walked into the main stadium. In the center stood Udomax, a 15-foot-tall monster of chrome and muscle. Its upper arms wielded a massive plasma halberd, while its lower arms carried buckles of energized steel. The fight was a symphony of destruction. Cody was the frantic violin solo, Tegan the steady war drum, and Milo the conductor. They chipped away at the giant, damaging an arm actuator, denting the cybernetic housing on its knee.
The knee cracked,
Milo yelled.
One more good hit.
Cody saw his opening. He sprinted, slid, and slapped the EMP against the damaged knee joint.
No!
Tegan yelled, launching herself into one final desperate kick at the exact same spot. The EMP detonated. The plasma blades died. Tegan's foot connected. The knee joint shattered. Udomax, the undefeated champion, fell. The stadium fell utterly silent. In the quiet, a Skitarii guard near an exit, who had been frantically trying to secure a maintenance panel, shrieked in terror, dropped his datapad and keycard, and fled. Cody picked up the guard's comm unit.
Well, that was a pretty good warm-up.
He broadcast to the stunned arena.
Anybody else want to go?
Tegan took the comm. Next time, she said, her voice like ice, send your warlord. While they postured, Milo sprinted to where the guard had fled. He ignored the datapad. He snatched the dropped keycard from the floor. He looked at the heavy locked door the guard had been fiddling with. It was labeled Network Conduit A9. He looked at the keycard, then at the master maintenance key he'd palmed from the labyrinth. 2 keys, 2 locks. An idea, insane and beautiful, bloomed in his mind. Guys, he said, his voice tight with excitement, I think I know how to get us a ride home. He swiped the guard's keycard. A lock on the heavy door clicked open. The ignition is this way. He wrenched the door open, revealing not a bridge, but a cramped, dark, and intensely hot corridor leading to a humming, reinforced server room. The air smelled of superheated dust and overworked electronics. Tegan watched the door. Milo ordered, plunging into the darkness. Cody, you're with me. Bring a light. Cody, grabbing a flickering emergency wand from the wall, followed him in. The room was a cage of glowing server racks. Milo found the main trunk, a pillar of hardened steel and blinking lights. In its center was a sealed port, bearing the same key and cog symbol as the ceramic key. He jammed it in and twisted. With a heavy clunk, a panel slid open, revealing the ship's core network interface. Access granted. Welcome, Administrator. He plugged the drop data pad into the interface. A root directory filled the screen. Life support control, internal security systems, propulsion, navigation. He began to type. The final scene wasn't in a server room. It was on the bridge of the Gauntlet. Red lights flashed and alarms blared, external alerts, not internal warnings. The bridge crew were unconscious, victims of a stun gas cocktail vented from the life support system, courtesy of Milo's newfound administrative privileges. Milo was at the helm. Navigation locked. Main drive is online. Full tank of gas, too, he announced. I'm officially requisitioning this vessel. Your wiring is a disgrace. Cody was spinning in the Warlord's command chair. So, where are we going? Back to Earth? Tegan leaned against a console, a dangerous smile on her lips. Going back was an ending. This felt like a beginning. No, she said. Let's go see what else is out there. Milo grinned and slammed his hand on a glowing panel. The ship lurched, a deep thrum vibrating through the deck. Let the galaxy get used to us, Tegan finished. Outside the view screen, the stars stretched into brilliant white lines as the Gauntlet, under its new, entirely unauthorized management, tore a hole in reality and vanished into the silent, waiting expanse of hyperspace. The bridge of the Gauntlet was silent, save for the soft hum of systems that now obeyed a new master. The frantic red alert strobes had been replaced by a calm, steady blue, and the unconscious Qatari crew had been gently relocated to empty barracks by a repurposed cleaning drone. Order had been restored. Human order. Milo sat in the captain's chair, not with the arrogance of a conqueror, but the quiet satisfaction of a craftsman who had just finished the job of a lifetime. He ran a hand over the console, feeling the subtle vibration of the engine he had just personally tuned. She's purring, he said, a genuine weary smile touching his lips for the first time. No rattles, no weird feedback in the power relays. Solid piece of work now. Cody was leaning against the main view screen, which displayed a breathtaking real-time vista of a swirling nebula. The broadcast to the Coalition was over. The point had been made. He wasn't performing anymore. He was just watching the stars, a profound sense of awe on his face. You know, he said softly, from down there, you forget they're even real. It's just a ceiling. Tegan stood beside him, her posture relaxed for the first time. The warrior was at ease, her gaze not scanning for threats, but simply taking in the view with her crew. She had started this journey alone, a weapon ready to be pointed. Now, she was part of a shield. She looked from the starstruck surfer to the grease-stained mechanic who had just hot-wired a warship. We did it, she said, the words carrying the weight of all they had endured. We actually did it. Yeah, we did, Milo grunted, leaning back in the chair. It fit him surprisingly well. So, what now, boss? The question hung in the air, vast and full of possibility. They had the power to go anywhere, do anything. They could strike back, they could run, they could hide. Tegan looked at the faces of her companions. The grumpy mechanic who could make miracles out of scrap, the hyperactive kid who could dance through plasma fire and find the joy in any situation. They weren't just a laborer, an enforcer, and a specialist anymore. They were a team, a family forged in a crucible. Home, Tegan said, her voice firm but gentle. We go home. Cody turned from the window, a flicker of surprise on his face.
Really? After all this, we're just going back?
They took us from our world, Tegan explained, her eyes finding Milo's, then Cody's, sharing a moment of perfect understanding. They wanted to prove humanity was a monster. We'll prove them right, but not in the way they think. Milo's grin returned, wider this time. He was already seeing the schematics in his head. They have no idea what we're bringing back with us. Exactly, Tegan affirmed, a fierce protective pride in her voice. We're not bringing war. We're bringing knowledge, technology, a warning, a chance for all people to be ready. We're not an existential threat, Milo. We're a damn immune system, and we're going home to deliver the antibodies. Cody's face broke into a brilliant smile, the purest expression of his spirit they had seen yet. The mission wasn't over. It had just been upgraded.
Oh, I get it,
he said, his voice buzzing with excitement.
We're not just going home. We're going to go kick humanity's future into high gear.
That's the plan, Tegan said. She walked over to the helm and placed a hand on Milo's shoulder. Take us home, Milo. He nodded, his hands moving across the console with a newfound purpose.
Course laid in for the Sol system. It's a long shot, but I think I can get us there in one piece.
He looked up at the star-dusted view screen.
Hold on. It's gonna be a beautiful ride.
With a smooth, powerful surge that spoke of human ingenuity and stubborn refusal to quit, the ship, formerly known as the Gauntlet, turned its nose toward a tiny, distant star and leaped into the surreal, silent river of hyperspace. The weeks that followed were a strange and wonderful kind of peace. The universe outside the view screen was a tunnel of flowing, strange colors, but inside, a new routine settled over the three of them. Milo was in heaven. He treated the ship like the ultimate fixer-upper, disappearing into its guts for days at a time. He emerged occasionally, covered in iridescent lubricant, to announce a new breakthrough. He bypassed the nutrient paste dispenser in the mess hall and, after much trial and error with the molecular fabricator, proudly produced 3 perfectly grilled cheeseburgers on plates that were still slightly too hot. He rerouted the bridge's atmospheric controls to subtly smell of fresh-cut grass just because he could. He was no longer just a mechanic from Detroit. He was a master engineer, a pioneer, charting the very limits of a technology centuries ahead of his time. Cody, in turn, became their historian and cultural attaché. He dove into the Scutari databanks, bypassing the military files and heading straight for their art and history. He learned that their music was mathematically perfect but utterly passionless, that their heroic sagas all ended with the protagonist dying for the state, and they had no concept of comedy. He began documenting their own story on a datapad, chronicling everything from the Groin fight to Milo's quest for the perfect replicated French fry. He was no longer a directionless thrill-seeker. He was the keeper of their legend, the voice that would one day tell their story. Tegan became the heart of their small community. With the immediate threat gone, the hardened warrior began to soften. She spent her time on the bridge, not just studying tactics, but poring over the coalition's star charts, memorizing trade routes, and learning the political landscape of the galaxy they had just gatecrashed. She was planning, not for a fight, but for a conversation. She organized their schedules, made sure Milo remembered to eat, and even listened with a patient smile as Cody read her the latest chapter of their adventure. She was no longer just a weapon. She was a leader, a strategist, and the quiet, steady anchor of their found family. One evening, they gathered on the bridge, eating Milo's latest culinary creation, a surprisingly successful attempt at pizza.
You know what I miss?
Milo said, staring at the flowing colors of hyperspace.
The smell of gasoline. And my dog.
He's as dumb as a brick golden retriever named Chewy. I miss the ocean. Cody sighed. That feeling when you're on a board and just for a second, you're flying. I'm gonna teach my little sister how to surf. For real this time. Tegan was quiet for a moment, watching them. I'm going to take a walk, she said finally. In a forest, while it's raining. And I'm not going to look over my shoulder, not even once. In that moment, they weren't specimens or champions. They were just three people who had been through hell together, dreaming of home. The day came when Milo made the announcement. We're here, he said, his voice thick with emotion. The surreal tunnel of light collapsed, and the stars snapped back into familiar silent points. And there, hanging in the black like a perfect blue marble, was Earth. Home. For a long moment, no one spoke. They just stared, drinking it in. Okay, Tegan said, her voice steady as she took command one last time. They're going to be scared. They're going to see a massive alien warship and think the worst. We do this smart. We do this right. Cody nodded, already at the comm station. No hells to NORAD or the Pentagon. They just cause panic in a bunker. We go bigger. To everyone, Milo agreed, looking at Tegan for confirmation. She nodded. To everyone. Cody took a deep breath, his fingers flying over the console. He didn't just open a channel. He hijacked every satellite, every broadcast signal, every cell network on the planet. From the jumbotrons in Times Square to the flickering smartphone screens in rural Africa, their message would be heard. A single, clear, calm tone cut through every program. Then, Cody's voice, devoid of his usual surfer bro affectation, spoke to the world. Hello, Earth. This is not an invasion. Please, do not be afraid. He paused, letting the words sink in. On the view screen, they could see the planet light up as 1 billion people turned their attention to the sky. My name is Cody. I'm from California. With me are Tegan from who knows where and Milo from Detroit. A few weeks ago, we were taken from our homes, just like you might have been. We were brought out here to be a demonstration, proof that humanity was too dangerous, too chaotic, too much for the rest of the galaxy to handle. Tegan stepped up to the microphone. They were right, she said, her voice ringing with a strength that resonated across the globe. We are dangerous to those who would cage us. We are chaotic to those who live in fear, and we are more than they could have ever imagined. We were put on trial, and we won. Milo's gruff voice came next. And now we're home. We didn't come back with weapons of war. We came back with tools, with medicine, with science that can clean our oceans, feed our hungry, and take us to the stars you see above you. This ship is not a threat. It's a gift. It's the collected knowledge of 1,000 worlds, and it belongs to all of you. Tegan finished the message, her voice softening into a promise. For a long time, we've been alone in the dark. We're not anymore. But the galaxy is a big, complicated place. They feared us because they didn't understand us. It's time to show them who we are. Not conquerors, not monsters, but explorers, builders, and dreamers. She looked down at the beautiful, fragile world below. The quarantine is over. A new door has been opened. Please, help us walk through it together. The broadcast ended. The ship, their prize and their vessel, held its position in high orbit, a silent, shining testament in the sun. It waited. Down below, after a moment of stunned planet-wide silence, humanity gave its answer. From city streets and quiet towns, from mountains and from valleys, from every nation and every tribe, for the first time in a very long time, the whole world looked up, not in fear, but in wonder. The frantic chatter of panicked military channels went silent, replaced by an electric current of pure possibility flowing through civilian networks. They were not met with fighter jets, but with telescopes, not with missile lock-ons, but with millions of upturned faces filled with hope. In that moment, Tegan, Milo, and Cody shared a look of profound, bone-deep relief. They hadn't just survived their trial, they had successfully translated their victory into a language their entire species could understand. Their broadcast wasn't a declaration of war, but an invitation to dream bigger. And humanity, in its own messy, brilliant, and chaotic way, had just accepted. The galaxy had labeled their world a Tier 1 existential hazard, and it turned out they were right. But they had fundamentally misunderstood the nature of the threat. They feared humanity's capacity to break things. They should have feared its incurable instinct to build them better. The real danger humanity posed was never its aggression, but its relentless, viral optimism and its stubborn refusal to accept limitations. Warlord Crayon had sent his worst to prove humanity was a monster to be feared. Instead, 3 humans had returned with a future to be built, turning his ultimate weapon into their species' greatest tool. The quarantine was over, not because humanity had broken out, but because they had just invited the universe in.